This is a story about a failed doctor that got reincarnated after working in a clinic that gives patients coronavirus. Beneath the city's full moon sky on a bridge, a scene unfolds. A man is reading a post on his smartphone. The post is from Jin Woo's father. He said something about being scared after visiting the XX Korean medicine clinic. People engaged in the comment section. The user named "Be Healthy My Son" said that he visited that clinic recently and got COVID. As for the others, they thought of the same. The reader laughed upon seeing these, but his expression appeared as though he were emotionally drained. In his mind, this wasn't the reason why he became a Korean medicine doctor. He can't believe that he's in debts after failing to get the business going 3 years after opening it. He blamed the coronavirus for breaking out just when he just opened his clinic. Standing atop the bridge facing the waters, he screams. Venting his frustration, he questioned why individuals continued to contract COVID after visiting his clinic. In the midst of his emotional outburst, his foot slipped. He couldn't immediately medley the process that he was already upside down. On his way to the water, his vision faded to black. As he reached the water, he tried to swim upward, but it was no use. This is a time that he never would imagine what was about to happen to himself. Who's a normal Korean medicine doctor was going to be the divine physician in a novel. Status screen displayed that the HP system is now in place. Another screen showed that the user is able to gain HP from internal organs through treatment, and by investing the HP acquired, the user can unlock various skills or summon creatures. The last screen showed HP is 0p. He began to open his eyes, wondering where he is. Before him is a man, but since his vision is blurry, he wondered who he was, and assumed that him as a rescue personnel, and concluded that the person had rescued him after he fell into the Han River. Then promptly got up from the bed. His hand tightened on the blanket as he considered that being alive with a mountain of debts was preferable than dying. He vocalized his commitment to being more cautious next time, but when he took notice of his surroundings, he was shocked knowing that he is not in a hospital. He looked closely and thought, the pieces of furniture look so weird that it's like he's on a filming set for the Middle Ages. He gazed upon the sparkly gold decorations in the room. All of a sudden, the man in the room with him shouted, "Your Highness." The man cried profusely with tears streaming down his face. He inquired if the prince is okay. The patient reflected on his surprise, contemplating who the peculiar foreigner was, thinking whether the person was actually crying. He greeted the foreigner and asked about his identity. The man couldn't answer in disbelief. He then asked if the patient couldn't recognize him. With exaggerated enthusiasm, he assured him that he would continue serving him. He is Piero Gardin, the crown prince's personal physician. The patient couldn't understand him. He coughed and asked for some water. Gardin hurriedly gave him a goblet. While holding goblet, he wondered if those are real diamonds on the side of the goblet. He inspected it and thought that it doesn't look like it's plated, since the smell is similar to 24-karat diamonds. He took a sip from the goblet, but he paused since his attention was caught by something. He's looking at the reflection in the mirror, and wondered, who is holding the same goblet as me? This guy was surprised to see that before him was a young handsome man with silver hair and blue eyes. Gardin wiped his face, looking concerned. The patient is confused, just wondered if the face he saw was really his own. While thinking about the situation, he realized and recalled the name, Rack L. Adria Magano, and the novel titled Demon Sword Emperor. It was the novel that he was reading during the day before he went to drink alcohol. He looked at himself and realized that it's a character in that novel. He then called Gardin, and Gardin responded promptly with an innocent look. He requested Gardin to slap him, leaving Gardin intensely shocked and horrified. Gardin asked again, thinking he might have misunderstood, seeing Gardin's hesitation. Prince decided to slap himself without any reservation. Gardin couldn't help and asks if he is okay. After that, the patient remained motionless, while Gardin continued to observe him. He covered his face with both hands as he got lost in his thoughts. He has proven that he isn't in a dream. He wore a happy and excited expression upon the realization that he's a crown prince named Raquel Adria in that novel. That also meant that the mountain of debt and interest that he accumulated from his failed clinic business were all gone. He refused to think more about it. Instead, he focused on celebrating, living his new life without any of those crippling debts. He kneeled on the bed with his arms raised and his mouth wide open in happiness, but the sudden movement made him dizzy. He instantly fell backwards. His back collided with the headboard. Gardin rushed to his side. Raquel asked him what just happened to him. Prince looks at his trembling hands, noticing that his body felt weak. He realized that his body is weaker than the body of a person in their 40s. After that he recalled something which alarmed him. The first half of the story of the novel Demon Sword Emperor, Rakil the Crown Prince is a side character that only appears for a short while. He's a character who's been bedridden since he was young, and then at the age of 22, he died. He called Garden, who promptly responded to him. He asked about his own age, and Garden replied that he was 21 years old, leaving him feeling dismay. While biting his lip, thoughts raced through his mind. With just 1 year left, he began questioning where things went wrong when he suddenly became a character in a novel. Disappointment set in as he had hoped to forget his debts and live comfortably as the Crown Prince. However, the depressing reality hit him that he only had 1 year left to live. He knew that as the Crown Prince he was getting all the best medical treatments in that world. Because that didn't work for him, he also received the blessing of a cleric countless times. But he still died in the first half of the story. Concluded that there's only one option left for him. He faced the mirror and saw his Korean doctor self. He called Garden and Garden promptly answered. With a determined expression, he gave out an instruction to bring as many needles as he can without minding the size of it. Rakil has decided to protect his own body. In the castle under the night sky, Rakil took a deep breath. While he felt his pulse, he wondered what was the problem with his body. It has 10 strange pulses. He uttered that if even one of those have symptoms, that means he's full of internal injuries. He sighed and remarked that it's a tough life. All of a sudden Garden opened the door while breathing heavily. He announced that he had brought back all the needles that he could find. Rakil praised him and asked him to put it on the bed. Crown Prince stared at the needles. While thinking, he picked one needle, and in his mind he thought, "Damn, this is basically like a club." Garden called him. Rakil turned to him while heating the needle on the candle. His personal doctor asked what he intended to do with the needle. He confidently answered that he's going to poke his body with it. Garden was astonished. In an instant he clung to Rakil's leg while yelling. Garden once again overreacted and cried rivers of tears, telling the Crown Prince not to hurt himself and just calm down. He reminded the Crown Prince that he's the one to inherit the imperial throne, and that while he understands that he's going through a lot of pain, he told him not to harm himself that way. Rakil immediately intervened and corrected him. He explained that he is doing it for a good reason. He continued what he was doing and heated the needle, and told him that if nothing happens to him after he pokes the needle into his body, Garden should start trusting him. Garden stood there while processing the Crown Prince's words. He wore an anguished expression as if he knew he wouldn't win, and answered the prince that if that's what he insists, then he will fully trust him. Rakil started removing his shirt and revealed that the prince was too skinny. He told Garden not to worry and assured him that he won't regret it. Rakil laid on the bed. The first needle will be on the most important breathing organ. He conditioned his body by breathing properly before anything else, and in order for him to do that he focused on the starting point of the 12 meridians, the one that's most connected to the lungs. It's the lung meridian of the hand called Ta Yin, located on the gap between the collarbone and shoulder. He positioned the needle above it and then he exclaimed, "Ouch." He wondered it stings if it's because the needle is huge, but he was able to go through lung 1 ACU point, cloud gate acupoint, and upper arm assembly ACU point, and with that he finished the first step. When he opened his eyes, he saw a window screen before him. It notified him that his body is reacting positively thanks to the accurate acupuncture skills that he has. Also, the functions of his internal organs have been slightly recovered. His lungs started to look healthy, and the window screen displayed that his lungs had begun to function again. In a very amusing way, his lungs gained cartoonish eyes. The lungs were joyous as it sang and danced around. Both of them even winked and showed thumbs up. The window screen displayed that his lungs had given him 2 thumbs up. On the next window screen it showed HP 100p. He was baffled at what he just witnessed. He was intensely confused, wondering if what he saw were mascots. Seeing the notification window, he promptly swiped in air. Observing the Crown Prince's unusual behavior, Garden, filled with nervousness, felt sweat trickling down his face as he asked, "Your Highness?" To Garden it seemed like the Crown Prince was strangely flailing his arms. While the Crown Prince wondered if what appeared before him is similar to a status window, Garden cleared his throat, struggling to contain his emotions. Tears streamed down his face. He found himself overreacting. Convinced that the troubled Crown Prince was truly pitiful, he wondered about the best course of action. The Crown Prince noticed him and told him that he's not going crazy, so he should refrain from overreacting. Garden was surprised to see that the Crown Prince is going to inject more needles. The Crown Prince assured him that it's fine. Right after he inserted another needle, A notification window displayed that he has accurately performed acupuncture on the young man ACU point. The tight feeling on his chest has been alleviated a little. He inserted 3 needles into his arm and immediately felt the sensation of pain. Prince expressed that it stings more than he thought it would. Upon witnessing that, Garden couldn't help it and knelt down. As usual, he overreacted and he immediately started praying. While the Crown Prince watched Garden with a hint of embarrassment. He can't believe that his servant thought that he had gone crazy from what he was doing. Because of the awkward situation, he decided to look at the ceiling instead. He thought that he should be wrapping up what he was doing. There are different A-cup points such as Shabi A-cup point, Teninfu A-cup point, Kongu A-cup point, and Yugi A-cup point. A notification window displayed that due to Rakiel's acupuncture skills, various ACU press points are being stimulated. It is as if his lungs are being massaged in a massage chair. Rakiel found the humorous description quite annoying, especially as he couldn't understand why the massage chair wasn't providing him with any HP. Then finally he pierced the Chezi acupoint, which is on the nail bed. With that, acupuncture treatment for the left lung meridian has been successfully completed. This process was then portrayed by 2 boys that are twins were on the stage with a spotlight on them. They started moving their hands and feet to the beat. The lungs earlier evolved, and this is what they look like. The lungs energetically danced to the beat. They continuously showcased their tap dancing moves. Because of that, a sleeping guy seemed to have been disturbed and awoken because of the noise that the lungs were creating. Their noise is starting to annoy this guy. A notification window pops up informing the prince that the organ responsible for bowel movements now in sync with the tap dancing lungs has awakened. That made the dancing lungs stop. Another organ that is portrayed as a person asked the lungs what they were doing. He asked the lungs how they could leave him out, and the party continues as they dance while playing instruments. A screen materialized notifying the prince that his large intestine is now in perfectly sync with the rhythm, giving him more HP. He now already has 600 points in total. He continued to watch the screen, especially now that the large intestine had appeared. A notification screen also showed him that the HP he possesses has reached the level where it can unlock skills. The skills that he can unlock will depend on the knowledge and abilities he currently possesses. He was given the option if he would like to see the unlockable skills. He was surprised to see that the skills exists in this world. He wondered if it was like in games where swinging a sword releases sword aura, or shooting fire from a staff after casting a spell. In excitement, he pressed the yes button. Notification screen confirmed the viewing of the list of skills that can be unlocked. He intensely focused on the list of skills. He was a bit disappointed because the skills listed are all the tasks that he used to perform at work. The prince then recalled that the start of all the treatment is diagnosis. Only an accurate diagnosis can lead to the right treatment and prescription. He then select the pulse reading skill. Screen showed that the skill is at stage 1. According to the skill description, Rakiel can now check the basic overall health of a patient. Curious about the overall health check report, so he decided to read his pulse again. The system starts to scan his body. After few moments, a detailed report was shown to him containing personal and health rank. System summarized the rank of his health to SS rank trash, with expected life expectancy of 91 days. He was surprised and couldn't believe that his body only had 3 months left to live. He complained that it's even shorter than a mobile contract. He uttered, "Do you think I'll just die like this?" He started inserting needles on clockwise, and lastly on his thumb. He was shocked to see that his life expectancy has increased by a day. Now he has 92 days to live. In a thought that his treatment was effective, he picked another needle to try treating his other side, but just right after inserting the needle, unexpectedly he vomited blood. A warning screen showed up, telling him that his body is experiencing stress due to frequent acupuncture. Another screen informed him that based on his current condition, it is recommended to perform acupuncture only once every 3 days. He started to go pale as he vomited more blood. He remembered that acupuncture isn't a cure-all. Seeing this, Garden was on the brink of losing his consciousness. Due to the stress, his organs had stopped dancing as they all got exhausted. Prince starts thinking that a person needs to be strong enough to endure acupuncture. In gaming terms, his body is in super low health. According to the notification, the treatment is working. But because of his weak body, he can only increase his life by only a month. But that's not good enough for him, since it means that he's still going to die soon. He knew he needed a more effective approach. Thinking of consumables, he uttered the word, tonics. Garden was doubtful about tonics, so he asked the crown prince if he's all right. Rakiel wore a serious expression as he nodded. Rakiel stood up and started acting weird. Then he told Garden that he has a favor to ask from him. Garden was a bit hesitant and replied that he is willing to serve him. With an innocent and excited expression, Rakiel asked if there are more potent ingredient in the storage. Garden confirmed what he meant by more potent ingredients. Rakiel nonchalantly answered, poisonous ingredients, when Garden answered reluctantly that they have them. Rakiel didn't let him finish and inquire about the wolfsbane root. Garden replied, yes, and explained that even though they are not in the main palace, they still stock it since it's the crown prince's residence. Rakiel wore a bright smile as he excitedly requested Garden to bring it to him. Garden politely asked why he wanted it. Rakiel grinned, and in a devilish expression he told Garden that he will eat it. Garden looked like he was about to go crazy from what he had heard. Funnily, Rakiel exaggerated on purpose. He pointed at his open mouth. The silence in the palace was disturbed, as Garden immediately dropped his knees to the ground and yelled, "You mustn't do that, Your Highness." He begged and asked, "How can you ask me to get poison for you?" Rakiel explained that it's part of his treatment process. Garden tries to talk, but Prince orders him to bring what he asked for in 5 minutes. Garden looked at him with puppy dog eyes. But Rakiel threatened him that if he comes back later than that he'd really kill himself. Garden heightened his resistance, portraying himself as even more pitiful. Rakiel sighed and realized that he can't just force himself through this. He then asked Garden if he's aware that the wolf's bane root is highly toxic. Garden answered yes, and it's also why is often used in poisons. Rakiel started explaining that there are 2 types of wolfbane root. Among the 2, Rakiel wanted to eat the smaller root known as the daughter root. Garden answered that the aconitine in wolfsbane can stop a heart. Rakiel agreed, and with full confidence he told Garden that he knows a method on how to neutralize and control poison. In other words, he can turn poisonous plants into medicinal herbs. Garden tried to process the idea of turning a poisonous plant into a medicinal herb. Rakiel replied that it's called detoxification in another country. After it's detoxified, the toxic properties of the daughter root can be medicinal. Rakiel asked Garden if he's already convinced. Now Garden admitted that he's not convinced at all. Rakiel was taken aback and slightly frustrated. Garden explained that he doesn't know where the information came from or if it can even be trusted. However, Garden added that if it will help improve Rakiel's health, then he pledges to bring the wolf's bane as he ordered. Rakiel was left astonished. Garden walked through the hallway as he thought about how His Highness's body deteriorates daily. He opened the door of the storage room. He thought how they were in despair when none of the medicines worked. He contemplated detoxification and concluded that it was worth a try. He checked one of the white boxes and found the roots and thought, once the detoxification process is over, he will eat it to ensure its safety. In the kitchen, a pot simmers on the stove containing brown liquid.